Good morning. Welcome to the Celtic Way morning briefing live. It's Wednesday, 22nd of March. Is that right, Aidan? I believe it's Wednesday, 22nd of March.
That's indeed, Tony.
And you know the reason I remember that is, first and foremost, going to have to say happy birthday to Heather, Sean Martin's wife. Hope you have a great day. And not to be derelict in my duty, happy birthday to my own wife, Caroline. It's her birthday today, so I don't know if either of the two of them watch it, but have a wonderful day, ladies. And I don't want to be derelict in my duty and say, why didn't you say happy birthday? So I did. So there you have it. I hope you have a wonderful day, ladies, and take care. And now I will say I'm a Haggerty 10 on the Twitter handle, and I'm joined today by Aidan Macdonald at Aidan C. Macdonald. Good morning, Aidan.
Morning, Tony. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm good. Yes. Good. Sun's shining, so it's not so bad. Now, first and foremost, I'll direct everybody to the ticker tape along the bottom. We've got a new offer for you. Now, as you can see, if you subscribe to the Celtic Way, support top quality journalism covering the club you love, it'll cost you £1 for 3 months of full access to everything that we write on the website. That's £1 for 3 months. Can't say better than that. That's a good deal. And all you have to do is click a button, www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. That's www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. And we also say thank you to SENECA. And as everybody knows by now, the Celtic Way morning briefing is now sponsored by SENECA Medical Group. SENECA are the #1 hair transplant company in Europe, and they offer innovative hair restoration treatments. And you can find out more about SENECA via the links in the description of this video. Now, Aidan, welcome back. Nice wee easy topic to ease you in again. And as you can see, I'll put this. I have written a column today, or an opinion piece. You can see that in your comment section there. And it's all about the Rangers Celtic ticket allocation and no fans, no away supporters being allowed in to the last two derbies of the season, Aidan. No Rangers fans at Celtic Park, no Celtic fans at Ibrox. I think it's fair to say that the column is what you would call in journalistic parlance a hot take, Aidan, or hard hitting. Would you go down those lines? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree with you, Tony. I would say it was a good piece of journalism from yourself on this topic, and it's definitely got people talking. It's obviously been a sort of issue that one way or the other has been kicking about for a few years now. I think it was 2018 was when it first started, so it obviously came to the forefront after the news last week that there wasn't going to be any sort of away fans at the game at Celtic Park next month, and then also the post-split game. We don't know exactly when that's going to take place, but within that sort of last 5 games, there'll be another league match at Ibrox. There's not going to be any Celtic fans at that. So, yeah, no, it was a well-timed piece from yourself, and it's definitely got people discussing things.
Now, the thrust of it, ladies and gentlemen, is basically I have said that Rangers have spat the dummy on this. It was Rangers that took that decision in 2018 after Celtic beat them at Ibrox for the 4th time in succession. Edouard's goal, 3-2 game with 10 men under Brendan Rodgers. And I've basically said that despite numerous attempts by the only adult in the room, which appears to be Celtic, to get them round a table to revert back to the previous ticket allocations, they're not interested. So I'm just sort of saying that I also mentioned the fact that during the 90s, when Rangers were the dominant team, Celtic had to watch 18,000 fans celebrate many times when they came to Celtic Park and won, and Celtic didn't cut their allocation. I said they took their dumps, as I said, even with a bit of humility. And so I basically written a piece about that and saying that I find it all a bit petty, and it's time to kind of grow up and get round the table and let's get back to what it was. So get your comments in the section, guys. Read the piece, and if you like it, thanks very much. I think somebody's already, Jason Burgard's come in and said, great piece on Derby tickets, despite the corporate media's attempt to blame both sides. We all know who started this and why. And it's I'm kind of making the point that, this this was started by one club, or was brought in by one club, and that club wasn't Celtic. So you can have a read of the piece. It's on the site. Let me know your thoughts, but let me know your thoughts in the comment section. And Kevin Ferrier's come in and said, exactly, Tony, Celtic went back to them a couple of weeks ago and asked to go back to the usual, and they said no. And that's the kind of thing that I'm getting at. Only Rangers know the real reasons for giving Celtic 700 or 800 tickets, Aidan, and only they can answer why, and only they can come back to the table and say, look, let's sort this out. It'd be interesting to see if Sky get involved as well, Aidan. It's Scottish football's unique selling point, isn't it? And one set of partisan fans in the ground, maybe not a good look for TV. So further down the line, they might well sort of say or have something to say about it. But I just find it all a bit petty, Aidan, and unnecessary.
Yeah, I would say that's exactly what it is, Tony, to be honest. And it's a situation that seems to have got progressively worse. It started off with the 700 kind of slash 800, depending what game it's been since 2018. And then there was obviously, after we came back after COVID, the sort of first game at Ibrox, which was also coincidentally Ange's first game as Celtic manager against Rangers. There was no Celtic fans at all. It was to do with a COVID reason, I think, to do with they didn't know if Celtic were going to be able, or they claimed Celtic weren't going to be able to guarantee them their away tickets based off potential COVID restrictions come sort of December. Obviously, we know that game then got moved to February because there was a extended break, because it ended up there was more COVID restrictions. So there was no Celtic fans at the first game last season, no Rangers fans at the second one, and then it sort of went back to that 7/800 for the 2 games after that, and then the 2 games earlier this season. But look, it's one of the biggest derbies in the world. I'm not saying anything new here when I say that, but I think there was always a unique selling point of every other sort of Scottish team would maybe have between 7, 8, 900, and then when Rangers came to Celtic Park and vice versa, it was a sort of between whatever it was, 8,500, 9,000, and that did sort of maybe give it a bit of a that kind of been the way for years. Obviously, you were mentioning there that going back even longer, there was even more sort of away fans at the games, going back to sort of days of 18,000 plus, as you mentioned earlier. But I think it's just, it does kind of dilute the spectacle. I mean, I know for myself, being at these games, it's not really been the same. I mean, obviously, when Celtic win, you're still enjoying them. Tony, you know that better than me, but I think the aspect of there not being as many away fans has, in my opinion, diluted the spectacle just a wee bit. And the fact there's not going to be any of these last 2 games, don't get me wrong, they will still be enjoyable, result permitting, but I just think it's probably not the best situation to be in, and I wouldn't be surprised if Sky do have something to say about it at some point.
Yeah. Well, Chil Pill comes in and says, to be honest, it was a brilliant night when Celtic beat Rangers in February without their fans there. He was saying, so I mean, listen, I'm open to all your suggestions and comments, but Jamie Mack says no away fans kills the game, and I think that's what you're kind of alluding to there. It is a spectacle, isn't it? And without the away fans, there's an ingredient missing, isn't that right? In my opinion. And I quoted Ian Crocker when Odsonne Edwards scored, and he said, keep your distance, Rangers. That seems to be the message from Celtic, keep your distance. And I've said Celtic have kind of, in their own way as a club, have said, look, we go back to the original allocations, all or nothing. And if it's nothing, then the message from Celtic is, we'll keep your distance, Rangers, until you're willing to, come and go with that and go back to the original allocations for both clubs. Then fine, you can keep your distance. And I mentioned that Celtic kind of called Rangers bluff on this, because I think it's gone on too long. That's nearly 4 years, 4 and a bit years, Aidan, and surely something or some constructive and meaningful dialogue should be able to take place now between the 2 clubs.
Yeah, you would hope so, but I would obviously say that has probably tried to sort of come to the forefront, and there's obviously not been any progress. If anything, it seems to have got worse since then, and I think this will be the 5th season off it, Tony. Obviously the 4th season with fan, because we know during the 2021 season there wasn't any supporters in the stadium, but it's since 2018, and I think as you mentioned in your piece, that sort of mix of Edouard scoring the goal at Ibrox and then a short while later Celtic winning beating Rangers 5-0 to win the league sort of played a part in the numbers being restricted. But my only thing is with it is I don't think it's ever going to go back to the sort of 8,000 number.
Yeah.
Unless Sky were to do something, very dramatic, because unfortunately, sometimes in my opinion, Scottish football is kind of sort of shackled by what Sky want to do or whoever's got the main TV deal. But if they were to sort of put forward that they were going to start, not showing games or reducing the amount of fixtures, that would maybe change it because the clubs would be forced into that. But I think the sort of idea maybe could be the sort of European allocation that you've maybe seen at Celtic Park and Ibrox over the years.
Is that 5%, Aidan? Is that the 5% rule or something? Would be something like 2,500, 3,000, something like that. Is that right?
Yeah, I think it sort of varies like per round. But if given obviously both teams went out in the group stages this season, if we just kind of take that as an example, it was about 2,500, 3,000. When Liverpool were playing there, for example, that was clearly from a security aspect. I understand if it's Celtic Rangers, there is maybe more of a risk, but they were also able to facilitate that. Okay, sort of a bit along from the corner and then up into the Broomloan Road stand. So I think that might be a sort of
the future.
Potentially, maybe like a best case scenario if you're of the persuasion that me and I think you are, that sort of away fans do add some sort of element to the atmosphere. I think that's probably maybe the best way it could go, Tony. I can definitely never see it going back to 8,000 unless there was some dramatic Sky aspect. What do you think about that? Do you think that'd be maybe something that could work?
I think Celtic are pushing to get the whole of the Broomloan stand.
I just can't see that anymore because I think Rangers said themselves they've sold
sadly, I think
apparently. So
but you can sell season tickets without an admission to the Rangers game, can't you? Or the Celtic game. I know Celtic used to do that, didn't they? They sold tickets in the past in the Rangers game because the Rangers got the whole stand, didn't they? The Rangers supporters. So
I guess you can do that, but the only issue is if you've been originally selling tickets with that and then it changes. Whereas I know when I was a bit younger and I had my sort of first season books, there was a sort of aspect not to include the Derby games on your ticket. So my ticket I always had never included that game really, unless I would take up that option. Whether or not they'd be able to do that, I'm not fully sure, but I definitely think that's a sort of a best case scenario from my point of view, Tony, to be honest.
Now, speaking of Petty, and I brought this up in the piece, Hazel, as well. She was saying it was the same in the League Cup final. Rangers left the pitch straight after collecting their medals. What happened to being gracious and clapping the team off the park for going up for their medals? It's getting so petty. I think there will have to be outside mediation. TV will get involved. That's a big part of the piece, isn't it, Aidan? I've mentioned those comments as well. So I agree totally, Hazel. It is getting petty and silly, and I don't know. You just hope that moving forward, as I say, there's constructive and meaningful dialogue, because I think it hurts Scottish football. You want to see Scottish football portrayed in the best light, Aidan, possible, and the USP is Celtic Rangers, Rangers Celtic derby matches, and you want to see a fair representation of away supporters inside each ground, because, as you say, it adds to the spectacle. And I know Celtic fans have enjoyed the occasions at Celtic Park when there's been either no or a little Rangers presence there.
Of course,
and that's fair enough, but that's always good when you're winning and those things, isn't it? So, but no, I want to see some resolution, Aidan. I'd like it to go back to Celtic getting the full Broomloan, but as you already said there, I don't think Rangers are keen on that. And if a compromise is the kind of European between 5-10% allocation, then maybe that's what's going to have to be reached as in the future. But it's certainly a hot topic of debate. And you can have a read at the opinion piece that's on the site, guys, and let me know your thoughts. Thanks for your comments on it just now. There's still lots of comments coming in about it, Aidan. and Plunge McNugget comes in and says if Sky threaten to walk away, it will go back to normal. I am interested in that. If Sky have any kind of say, or is it all just sort of chucked up in red tape and say it's all about security and policing and all that kind of Aidan? But you would have thought that those who pump money into Scottish football would want to see both sets of supporters at a derby match that they're covering.
Yeah, I mean, I know I did mention the Sky thing, so I'm probably about to contradict myself what I'm going to say here, Tony. But yeah, my only kind of factor about that would be as if they did have an immediate issue, they probably would have stepped in now. I can't remember fully when it sort of went back to Sky exclusive for league games. I know BT had them for a period as well, or they shared them, sorry. But I think if it was an issue, they might have done something by now. Although I suppose this is the first time. Well, it's not the first time that fans have been shut out of away fans have been shut out completely. Obviously, we listed the recent examples last year. I know there was games back in the 90s and that, etc. But given this is the first time kind of in for a while that the teams have chosen actively not to give each other the away fans, maybe that would lead to Sky stepping in potential. Just the fact they didn't sort of do anything when they go down to the 800 numbers says to me that there maybe isn't as big a deal as I'm mentioning there. But the only reason I highlighted that originally was because obviously that is the sort of TV deal that does pump money into Scottish football. I know we've discussed it's not enough probably, and they don't even show all the games, and it's in my opinion, it is a frustrating sort of TV contract, but it is still a sort of lifeline for a lot of clubs. And also, even though Celtic and Rangers to a certain extent are better off than all other teams, I'd imagine that money is still useful, and they wouldn't want to lose that. So that would probably be the only way that I could see it getting maybe changed, Tony. But it's one of those ones. We just have to wait and see. I will be interested. I mean, also with these two games coming up, if Sky do feel it's affected the product massively, then I would imagine there'll be some sort of discussed next season. But just need to wait and see on that one.
Paul Dyatt comes in and he says it's hard enough to get a good deal from Sky, but it should be compulsory that the away support gets a minimum of 10% ticket allocation. That remains to be seen, Paul, but I still think that's a decent enough suggestion. But there you go. It's, as you say, it's a contentious issue, Aidan. It's a hot topic. My opinion.
This issue.
Yeah. Hot take or whatever. You can have a read at that and see where we go from there. But so thanks for your comments and I appreciate it, guys. Now, Aidan, Kyogo Furuhashi has been addressing, I hate using the word snub, but being left out the Japanese national squad. And I was quite heartened by his comments because he's not letting that affect him at all, is he? Here's what he said. He was speaking to a Japanese outlet, and and he said, as an individual, I still have a long way to go. After all, there is no future unless I climb the small stairs one by one. I am not thinking about the next Japan national team game. I am concentrating on the next match for Celtic. There have been games where Daisen Maeda has played as a centre forward at Celtic, so I don't think I have any guarantee of being in the starting lineup. I think it's a similar situation. I just want to score 20 goals in the league and aim for a high total of 25 or 30. In every game, there are more chances and there are many situations where I have to score. Doesn't seem to be affecting them, does it?
No, it doesn't. It's a sort of elite level mentality for somebody who I think we could all agree, from a Celtic point of view, anyways, is an elite level player. He's not letting it sort of worry him. And as Ange did mention, if he was able to get over his World Cup disappointment, then you'd imagine he's able to sort of get over not being included in the squad for a couple of friendlies. But I'm sure he obviously, the fact he has featured for Japan before, he will long term want to get back in that squad, because also Kyogo was a wee bit older than Maeda, Hatate, etc. So he probably knows he's not got as many opportunities left as those two. But if he keeps going on his goal scoring form, obviously he mentioned these numbers there, 25 in the league, I think he was talking about. He's obviously at 26, 27 overall. So I can't remember his exact league goal scoring numbers specifically, but I'd imagine that it's pretty close to those numbers. So I reckon he'll probably surpass that. And I know Sean had that graphic a wee while ago, but overall, goal totals, and it wouldn't surprise me if Kyogo matches and goes past all of them because he's been excellent this season. But it was obviously good to see it's not affecting him, and it was a positive interview and positive quotes to read.
Brian Roberts saying humility abounding. Indeed, Keimatsu coming in and saying, why would he be bothered? He was never in the national team picture before. Japan plays a different formation and style. He understands that, and the story's been done to death. I was just making the point that it was Kyogo that was responding to it.
Yeah, the quotes were recent as well.
Yeah,
the quotes were recent as well. I mean, we wouldn't also be discussing the actual omission for Kyogo or Hatate because we've already did that. Like the comment I was saying, but the sort of quotes were relatively recent from Kyogo. I think they were shown a couple of days ago. So that was obviously why it was getting brought up in discussion.
Yeah, and I, as I say, I was very impressed. I'm impressed with his attitude, and he was saying there he wants 20 league goals. I think he was talking about Aidan, but 25, 30 overall.
Yeah,
he's got 26 overall at the minute.
So
9 games to go, and possibly 2 in the Scottish Cup. So he's on course to achieve his targets, isn't he?
I'd be surprised if he didn't reach at least 30 overall, and he's also his goal target in the league as well. He's been excellent this season, Kyogo, and nothing but good things to say about him. It's also been really good that he seems to shaking off his sort of injuries as well. I know he did hurt his shoulder a couple of times, but as we mentioned, he went off early against Rangers and in that recent league game, but he was back for the next match both those times. So he never actually technically missed a game. He featured in all when he went off early. So it's good that he seems to have got over those hamstring knocks, etc. Because last season that was a worry. Because he was such an important player at the start of last season, and he dipped out due to the injuries he sustained. So the fact he seems to have got over that as well has been another factor that's been pleasing.
Now, nice segue. Speaking of injuries, Aidan, Abada's injury, Lila Abada's injury seems to be not as bad as it first feared. There's no tear. He's just stretched his hamstring muscle, and it looks like he will be given the green light to play in both Israel's Euro 2020. 4 qualifying matches against Kosovo and Switzerland. I think he's going to get a scan and a full diagnosis, but that's good news for Celtic, isn't it? Despite the fact he's making the headlines for kind of the wrong reasons at the minute, but in terms of the playing front, if he plays those matches, then that's good. He's obviously not injured and can contribute to Celtic when he comes back.
Yeah, no, it is positive. Obviously, I think the kind of note about that injury was actually in the original report, which was also linking him with a move away. I understand that's obviously the headline in that, but I think that might have went under the radar a wee bit. But then there was a sort of an update from the Israeli media yesterday saying that the Israel national team's the medical staff, they thought that the knock wasn't as bad as first feared, and he has a way to get a scan, so we still need to get 100% confirmation on that. But the quotes that were coming out of their camp sounded positive, and they're kind of hoping or even expecting him to be an option for their 2 matches against, I think it's Kosovo and Switzerland.
Yeah, Kosovo and Switzerland, yeah.
As they begin their sort of Euro 2024 qualifying campaign. So it sounds positive to an extent, Tony, but like I say, we still do need to get final confirmation. But I like to think they wouldn't come out with sort of comments like that if, it was a serious injury like a hamstring. And I'd imagine if it had been, a serious hamstring injury, would have been on the first plane back to Glasgow to get his sort of medical treatment at Celtic. But no, hopefully he's okay, because I know there's been a lot of discussion about Abada. I know he's obviously covered it yesterday, so we don't want to sort of tread over old ground. But I think he is a good player that adds a lot to the team, and his numbers sort of speak for themselves. So the fact that he's hopefully okay, and when he comes back for international duty, he's going to be able to contribute between now and the end of the season is massive for Celtic, definitely.
Now, international duty, then, is just a fingers crossed job, isn't it? That all Celtic players that are in international duty come back unscathed, unharmed, and not injured. Celtic suffered, I think it was Andy's first experience of the international break as the Celtic manager, wasn't it? And they ended up with a plethora of injuries, and it just seemed to be a never-ending list, didn't it? When players went away and they come back injured, but Celtic have got over that. They've now got that squad depth that they can cope with maybe 1 or 2, but you just don't want to see any of them get injured, do you?
No, you don't want to see anybody get injured, because it can end up just sort of all spiraling at the one time. You get one player injured and loads of them. That's the way it seems to happen. We've seen that recently, obviously, with my dad picked up a knock. He turned out, obviously, to only miss 1 game, but then Starfelt got a wee knock. then we've seen Moy, Awata. So it tends to be that it's never really just one player out. But with Celtic injuries, just as far as I can remember, it always seems to be, if you do get to the sort of rare stage where everyone is fit, as soon as one player gets in, completely unrelated, but somebody else also ends up injured. So fingers crossed they'll make it back okay, Tony. But look, it's a risk every team faces when they're sending players away in international duty. And if you've got a big squad and the majority of them are doing well, they're probably going to get called up for their countries. So it's just something, like you say, fingers crossed is all you can really do. And like Ange wants me to go and play for international. He said that before. So yeah, fingers crossed is all I can really say on that, Tony.
Speaking of players, James Daly's done an article on the website. I put it in the comment section. You can have a read of that about David Turnbull and not writing off Turnbull and his contribution that he can make to Celtic. He's done a kind of stats bomb roundup of all that he brings to the table, and they've still got some impressive stats there, Aidan. I don't think anybody is writing off Turnbull. I think they just want more from him because they know he's capable of more, don't they, basically, when he gets that chance?
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. Given how impressive he was in that sort of season that we don't talk about, that closed door season, Turnbull was sort of the one shining light. So he was a sort of big prospect for the following campaign, and he did well. And then he unfortunately got that injury, which maybe derailed his momentum a wee bit last season. But I think Sean had pointed out that Turnbull's only played the equivalent to 14 full games this season, and I think he's 5 goals, 7 assists. So his numbers are pretty good, I would say, given his lack of minutes. I know people have got their opinions about whether or not he's a sort of suited to the Ange system. It is a difficult one. I am of the opinion that probably Hatate, O'Reilly and Moy are all ahead of him.
Yeah.
I think probably a lot of people would argue that. But I think Turnbull can still contribute. He's obviously interesting in the aspect that his contract's up at the end of next season. So if he isn't looking to sign an extension, which hopefully will, but if he isn't looking to sign an extension, then you might be wanting to sell him this summer so you get some sort of money for him. But if he isn't going to sign an extension, but Ange thinks he's a really important part of his team, maybe he will be somebody that sort of similar to Boyata's last year in a way. Not obviously the situation with Boyata, I should add. I know he kind of threw the toys at the pram a bit, but that he does just stay and he does well for that last season, then leaves for nothing. I don't know if you could end up in that sort of situation with him, but fingers crossed he does sign a deal. But there's not been too much talk of that at the moment. Ange remains relaxed on these things, doesn't he? But fingers crossed something the club is going to look at, or they're already looking at.
Brown Warrior saying Turbo's a slow burner and he'll come good at Celtic. I think he's a talented player, isn't I've no doubt about that. I just and he comes back in and says he needs regular game time to get consistency. And yeah, he does, but I just don't see, like you, where he's going to get that regular game time because there's an established core of players there. McGregor, Hatate, O'Reilly, McGregor, Hatate, Moy. These guys are in front of him, and I just thought on Saturday he kind of came on, he had a chance, and I'm just looking for a wee bit more from him, in all honesty. And that's not because I think he is a highly talented footballer, so maybe it is the system, I don't know, but Ange rates him, Ange really likes him, hence he always name checks the bull and things like that when he's talking in press conferences, so he clearly thinks he can do a job for him, but again, it's the game time and the minutes. Where does he fit in? So Paul Dyett's coming in and saying he looks a bit defeated over the last few weeks. I think not playing in the cup final has hit him hard. I guess the only person that can answer that is the manager and the player, but mostly the player, isn't it, Aidan?
Yeah, it is. I mean, we can obviously look into stuff like that, but we don't know. He's sort of own feelings unless he was to come out publicly and say that. And it's not really Turnbull's style. He's not really somebody who even does a lot of press, is he? So
no,
we're probably not going to really hear many comments about that. I don't think. It will be interesting to see if he does sign a new deal. I would be happy for him to. I think he's a good addition to the squad. Just the fact that he's obviously only got that 1 year left. And I'd imagine, Celtic don't want to get in a situation where somebody like that's leaving for nothing. Whether or not Ange takes a different view because he thinks he's an important member of the squad, because at the end of the day he is obviously just about on the park stuff. I don't know if the club would want to try and get some money for him. I think Turnbull is somebody that teams maybe I don't know if I'm overestimating a wee bit, but maybe even bottom half of the Premier League. I think just these sort of goal scoring stats, his sort of ability from a dead ball, that could be somebody that's maybe could potentially go for a wee bit of money, but obviously the fact that he is in the last year of his deal, that might not be the case. But I hope he signs a new deal, Tony. I do, because like you say, I think he has a solid addition to the squad and probably does give you something a wee bit different. Whether or not he fits the system entirely is probably up for debate, but I don't think you could say probably every player in the squad's going to fit the system entirely, but that doesn't mean they can't also contribute.
GP 1888 makes a good point as well that Celtic need to keep the core of Scottish players.
That's an important factor, yeah.
Champions League contingent as well. There you go. Well, Aidan, that's 31 minutes. We'll maybe call it a day there because we need to drag this out for 2 weeks over the international break. We need to kind of have topics to talk about every day, don't we?
We got through the World Cup, Tony, and that was 5 weeks.
So. We did get through the World Cup, but we had football to talk about, didn't we? We had some kind of games going on and Celtic players in action. So, I guess we've got some internationals coming up and talk about the various Celtic players that are in action for the various countries. But appreciate that today. Top class contribution. Guys, thanks for your comments today, especially in the first half of the programme. Yeah, hot topic, Aidan. Hot topic, yeah. There you go. But yes, we'll be back tomorrow. Have a wonderful Wednesday. I always say it, and we'll be back tomorrow for hopefully a terrific Thursday. But just draw your attention to the strap line running along the bottom, troops. If you haven't done it already, we thank everybody that has. But why don't you subscribe? We've got a new offer. It's £1 for 3 months for unlimited access to everything that's written on the website. Might want to do that today. Read the hot take, Aidan, but yeah, you can subscribe to the Celtic Way website and support top quality football journalism. Covering the club you love. It's £1 for 3 months. That's a great deal. All you have to do is click the button, www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. That's www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. And we say thank you to SENECA. As you all know by now, the Celtic Way morning briefing is now sponsored by SENECA Medical Group. And SENECA are a #1 hair transplant company in Europe. And they offer innovative hair restoration treatments. And you can find out more about SENECA via the links in the description of this video. Aidan, thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Cheers, Tony. Always a pleasure.
Thanks for all the comments, guys. As I say, we'll see you tomorrow. Take care. All the best.
Cheers, guys.